Is the Fortunate Tramp, Chapter 33, entitled Treasure Island. He read Treasure Island and imagined himself as a swashbuckling adventurer, then Time Machine, another great book, and his imagination took flight. He imagined himself as a caveman scavenging for food as the sky exploded with lightning, and then he was a sailor on rough seas heading for coasts unknown. Then he found himself scrambling in the trenches, his boots full of mud as bullets ricocheted around him. Before he knew it, it was dark outside. He pulled the covers up and drifted off to sleep. His main consolation was that Polly would be visiting him tomorrow. He couldn't wait to see her. He dreamt he was on a long, snow-covered road, in his dressing gown and slippers. The snow was blowing in his face and mouth. He was struggling to see where he was going. In the distance, he could see a red sports car, with the door hanging open invitingly, and the engine purring. His slippers were filled with snow, numbing his toes, but he kept going. He was determined to get in that car and sit on the plush leather seats to drive away. Unsteadily, he plodded on, leaving a trail behind him. He looked up, and the car seemed to have moved further into the distance. It must be a mirage, he thought. The closer he got, the further away it was. He was now out of breath and sweating. He picked up the pace, and he was desperate to get in and drive away forever to a new life. He trudged on, the wind whipping around him and trying to blow him over and knock him back like a jealous friend. It was coming down thicker and thicker, falling in his hair and mouth. It stung his eyes. It was like he was in a conveyor belt going the wrong way. In his frustration, he grabbed a handful of snow in his frozen fingers and threw it at the windshield in anger. When it hit the screen, it shattered into mist. He woke with a start. The pillow next to him was ripped and the foam was covering him. He wiped his face and plucked the pieces from his mouth. It was comical, and he needed to laugh. He looked at the clock, and it was 5 a.m. He sighed and stared at the ceiling, willing to sleep. He couldn't wait for Polly to arrive. It was the only thing that kept him going. He drifted off into a daydream about how life would be when he got better. He felt like settling down, but he wasn't sure if Polly would agree. Thankfully, he fell asleep again, and Polly arrived with a lovely smile on her face. She'd been chatting to the nurses and had good news. He was better and could go home, they confirmed. He'd made an amazing recovery.